All right, so let's dive right into a huge question we're tackling today. Can you actually build a business that makes serious money and solve some of the world's biggest problems? We're going to explore this whole idea using the playbook of an impact venture capital firm called Giant Leap. Let's get into it. This is really the core challenge for so many entrepreneurs right now. It's not about choosing between profit or purpose anymore. The game has changed. Now, it's about weaving them together. But how do you actually do that, right? How do you take a really good intention and turn it into a great scalable company? So here's what we're going to cover in this explainer. First, what investing with a mission even means. Then we'll get into something called the theory of change. We'll look at the 3 pillars of impact, check out some real results in numbers, and wrap up with how you can actually pitch your own impact idea. Okay, let's start with the big idea itself. At its heart, this is all about finding and funding founders who are using the power of business to create massive positive change in the world. Giant Leap puts it like this. They're backing founders who aren't just making tiny tweaks to the old way of doing things. No, these are people who are completely reimagining entire industries. The whole goal is to find businesses where every single dollar they make is directly tied to a positive outcome for people or the planet. And they're not new to this game. They were the very first VC fund in Australia that was 100% focused on impact. They've been out there paving the way, proving that you don't have to sacrifice financial returns to make a real difference. They've basically built the blueprint for this. Now, how do you make sure your impact is legit and not just a nice story you tell? Well, that's where a theory of change comes in. The best way to think about it is as your strategic map. It's what takes you from a good idea to an outcome you can actually measure. And Giant Leap breaks this down into 4 really clear steps. First, you define your North Star. What's that ultimate goal you're aiming for? Second, you build a logic model. It's kind of like an if-then statement. If we do this activity, then it will lead to this result, which gets us to our goal. Third, you've got to find the metrics to prove it's working. And fourth, you tell the world. You share that impact story to build momentum. So that's the theory. But what does this look like in the real world? What kinds of problems are we actually talking about solving here? Well, Giant Leap groups their investments into 3 main pillars. Let's check them out. The first one is sustainable living. This is all about tackling the climate crisis, everything from cutting down on emissions and waste to creating a more circular, reusable economy. A fantastic example is Who Gives a Crap. They sell sustainable toilet paper and then they use their profits to help build sanitation facilities. It's so simple and so brilliant. The more they sell, the more positive impact they have. The business model is the impact model. Pillar number 2 is health and well-being. This focuses on startups that are doing things like improving our physical and mental health and making it easier for everybody to get access to care. And the third pillar is all about empowering people. This is where you see companies tackling inequality, improving education, and creating brand new opportunities for people who've been left behind. Think about a company like Work 180. It's a jobs platform, but they vet every single employer to make sure they're genuinely committed to supporting women. So they help women find great jobs, and at the same time, they push the entire industry to adopt better policies. That's just a really powerful feedback loop. And what's really interesting is the passion behind the money. This quote from Ben Weinberger, one of the investment managers, it really shows you it's not just about the spreadsheets. There's this deep-seated belief in the founders and their power to really change things. Okay, so the mission is clear, the framework is super smart, but does it actually work? I mean, for real. Let's look at the data. Get this. Across their portfolio, these companies have avoided over 205,000 tons of CO2 emissions. To make that number feel real, that's like taking more than 84,000 cars off the road for a whole year. That is tangible. You can measure that. And over in the health sector, their companies have generated over $200 million in savings for the healthcare system. Just think about that. That means more efficient care, better outcomes for patients, and a smaller burden on public resources. It is a win-win-win. And this chart, this just brilliantly illustrates the most exciting part of all, scale. This shows the emissions avoided by just one of their companies. Look at that curve. As the business grows, the impact doesn't just grow with it, it grows exponentially. That's the real magic. So what if you're a founder? What if you have a world-changing idea? How do you get the attention of an impact investor like Giant Leap? Let's break down exactly what they're looking for. Giant Leap's evaluation process is actually pretty simple. Every single pitch has to pass 2 screens. First is the impact screen. Here, they're asking, Is the impact authentic? Is it measurable? Is it baked right into the business model? Then you have the commercial screen. This is where they ask, is the solution compelling? Is the market huge? Is the team resilient? Do you have a real competitive advantage? And here's the key, you absolutely need both to succeed. Here are some rapid-fire tips straight from the team. Be crystal clear on what your impact is. Nail your value proposition in just 1 or 2 sentences. Justify your market size with real sources. Please avoid jargon. And remember that deck design matters. It's your first impression. And finally, don't wait for the perfect moment to reach out. Building a relationship early is so important. They often know their founders for years before they even write a check. It's all about the long-term partnership. Which brings us right back to the beginning. The evidence is clear. Profit and purpose can be incredibly powerful partners. The tools are there, the funding is there, so the only real question left is, what impact will you create?